The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. At that time, when Jesus had crossed in the boat to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, a great crowd gathered about him, and he was beside the sea. Then came one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and seeing him, fell at his feet and begged him, saying, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, so that she may be made well and live." And he went with him. And a great crowd followed him and talked about him. And there was a woman who had had a flow of blood for 12 years, and who had suffered much under many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard reports about Jesus, and came up behind him in the crowds, and touched his garment, for she had said, "If I touch even his garments, I shall be made well." And immediately the hemorrhage ceased, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. And Jesus, perceiving in himself that power had gone forth from him, immediately turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my garment?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing around you, and yet you say, 'Who touched me?'" And he looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had been done to her, came in fear and trembling, and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." While he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house some who said, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But ignoring what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." And he allowed no one to follow him except Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And they came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue. When they got there, he saw a tumult and people weeping and wailing loudly. When he had entered, he said to them, "Why do you make a tumult and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. But he put them all out, took the child's father and mother and those who were with him, and went in where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, rise." And immediately the girl got up and walked, for she was 12 years old. And immediately they were overcome with amazement. And he strictly charged them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. The Gospel of the Lord. Lead questions for today. Question number 1. What is the overriding theme of today's readings? Question 2. How does Paul's message in our second reading, 2 Corinthians 8, 7 to 9 and 13 to 15, that second reading, how does it challenge Nigerian Christians, we Nigerian Christians, who are today witnessing a wide disparity between extreme wealth on the one hand and abject poverty on the other in the same society? How does the second reading of today challenge us Nigerian Christians? Question 3. What common lessons, one or two or three or four, what common lessons can you draw from the two stories that make up today's gospel? Question 4. What have you done before now? And what more will you do to bring healing and comfort to the sick? To bring healing and comfort to the poor, the distressed, and the traumatized persons around you today. What have you been doing in the past? And what more can you do as the population of sick, poor, distressed, and traumatized persons around us increase? The number is increasing every day. What have you been doing? And what more can you do to bring comfort, to bring healing, to bring relief to the suffering people around you? Yes, great.
Let me attempt question 2.
Yes.
Question 2. As a Christian, I am challenged that I have responsibility for my brothers and sisters.
I have responsibility for my brothers and sisters.
Yes.
My responsibility is not only to myself,
For myself.
but my brothers and sisters. Yes.
That whatever I have is not meant for me alone. That is meant for others. I shouldn't be full of food and while my neighbor lacks.
I have a responsibility for others. Yes. It was Pope St. John Paul II who says that we are each responsible for all. Each one of us is responsible for all of us. And it's a useless life where each one of us is responsible for only ourselves. We are each responsible for all. And actually, the church teaches what is called the universal destination of goods, meaning that whatever is entrusted to me as a steward for all. That I only serve as a steward. If a lot of goods are entrusted to me, they are entrusted to me because I am smart enough. Because I am smart enough, I will know how to manage. Maybe somebody like Gregory, you know how to manage, let's say, 100 million. Right? So 100 million is entrusted to you. But then there will be maybe Victor can manage 500 million, right? 500 million. They entrust it to you. There may be people who can manage $1 billion. But it's everybody on 1 billion, right? It's entrusted, but it is not entrusted to you so that you eat that 1 billion. It's entrusted to you so that you manage it for your brothers and sisters. But what is happening? $1 billion is entrusted to somebody. Rather than use it for the benefit of everyone, the little one that somebody has, he grabs it and adds to it for himself or herself alone. So the challenge for us Christians is to recognize that, can we say together, we are each responsible for all.
We are each responsible for all.
And that if it is not okay for all, it will not be okay for each.
That if it's not okay for all, it will not be okay for each.
How my people cannot get this point, I don't know. I don't know how my people cannot get the point that if it is not okay for all, it will not be okay for me. I don't know how my people can get the point. Research after research has been done, particularly in the US, that shows that when employment increases, when more and more people are employed, crime goes down. It's not rocket science, isn't it? Crime goes down when employment increases. When unemployment reduces, crime reduces. When most people are taken care of, the society will be more sane, more comfortable for everybody. Many comfortable people in our society today in Nigeria are locking 3 doors, 4 doors before they can sleep, meaning prison. The more you isolate yourself from the rest of society, the more you live in a prison. How many of you have to lock iron doors before you sleep? Iron. So one iron door outside, another iron door, then in their room, another iron door. If that is not a prison, what is it? So, because others have not been taken, they say, how do they say it? The rich cannot sleep because the poor are hungry.
The poor are awake.
Because the poor
Are awake.
and the poor are kept awake by hunger. So the rich cannot sleep. It's simple. It's not rocket science. We've got to understand we are each responsible for all. So in a society that is so terribly divided, so terribly unequal, where, the poor people are not asking to ride Lamborghini, are they? The poor people are not asking to ride private jets. Poor people are not asking to fly from here to Lagos or fly everywhere. The poor people are just asking to be able to pay their rent. In fact, most poor people are not even too desperate about building a house. It's to be able to pay rent. And they cannot pay rent. And they cannot even buy food to eat. Now, in that kind of society, those of us who are in the privileged class, we can't sleep with 2 eyes closed. And it is not a cause. It is the way things happen. Because as I keep saying, nature does not allow islands of affluence amidst a sea of poverty. The sea of poverty will swallow up the islands of affluence. Islands of affluence cannot exist amidst a sea of poverty. Nature does not allow it. So let's give it a thought. Give him a round of applause. Yes, Amechi.
Father, I would like to just add to question 2, then attend question 3. Yes, just yesterday I was reading somewhere and I saw something that struck me, and it correlates with this question too. When Ronald Reagan, the past president of America, said, "We have inflation because our leaders live well, and we do not have inflation because the people live well."
So when the people live well, there's no inflation. When the leaders are living well, then there is inflation. Yes, that's what Ronald Reagan, the former president of America, said.
And I thought about this, and it struck me, just like you said, the world would have been such a better place if we reach out to the others. After all, in the final analysis, all of us, we go down to the grave, and we may not be remembered.
Well, some people will go down to the grave with golden casket, while others will go down to the grave with, like, the casket that I will have for my own, which is cut and nail. My own casket will be cut. So some people, they go as VIP to the... Except that they will be eaten by termites in the same way, isn't it?
Yes.
They will be eaten by termites in the same way. Part of the foolishness of human beings.
So, Father, if we look at it, after some time, I was just thinking, not too long ago, the likes of Ndandi Azikiwe, Awolowo, and others, so many of the children sitting here do not remember a thing about them. But at that point, the good works you did or the bad things you did, you'll be remembered for. So when we have opportunity, especially those of us who get to government, let us remember that I do not need much, but I'm going to be judged by the outlook of the people that have come to serve.
Well, we are getting to a stage that we may even need to begin to forget about the people in government and say, okay, so what can we do? Right? Like the last question. You understand? So what can we do? Because, we keep talking about government, we get nothing from government. Therefore, what we need to think about what we can do. That's why it is important to say we are each responsible for all. Because if it is the people in government, there is something that happens when they get to government. Right? There's a poison. There's a virus. So let's see, what can we do for our neighbor? What can we do to lift up our neighbor, to make life better for our neighbor? Give him a round of applause. Okay. Oh, yeah, the next question.
Question 3. What the common lesson I can draw from the two stories? The woman with hemorrhage and the Darius, the leader of the daughter. So it's for me is that we need to have absolute trust in God. We recall that in the gospel, when Christ crossed over and when the people came over to him, and he said, "Why do you worry? All you need to have is faith in God." And for that woman who had suffered the blood for about 12 years, she just believed that if only I can get to him and touch.
So a common lesson you can draw from the two. One is faith and trust.
Yes, sir.
Yes, what other? There are others. Okay. Solomon, are you able to help him? You know, he's now in Lagos, so he's not there.
Glory to Jesus. Well, in addition to faith, which is common to both story or miracles, we also see courage on the part of the woman as well as Jairus. They were courageous enough to approach Jesus.
They were courageous enough to approach Jesus. Now, you need to understand that. The dimension of courage is important, Amechi, because the ruler of the synagogue, it was not a trendy thing for the ruler of the synagogue to go and kneel down before Jesus. Jesus was not popular among the religious leaders, was he? No. So, for the ruler of the synagogue to go and kneel before Jesus, it was not a trendy, popular thing. But he had the courage to do that. He had a need, the need to see his daughter healed, and he was ready to do anything. Now, the woman with a flow of blood, I hope you know that she was supposed to be ritually impure. And whoever she touches will become ritually impure. But she had the courage, violated all the rules, and shot through the crowd to touch Jesus. That is, how do I used to call it? Audacious faith. Audacious faith means also courageous faith. Ardent, audacious faith. So her courage was enormous. Yes. What else do they have in common?
Well, that's much I can remember at this point. I like
to add to it.
Yes, courage is what I just said.
Okay, you have added courage.
Yes.
Now it's still remaining. Yes, Francis.
So in addition to
faith and courage.
In addition to faith and courage, another lesson there is that both Jairus and the woman with the hemorrhage, they made an effort. They tried.
They made an effort.
They
didn't just sit down with their problem.
Yes, where they were.
They took a step.
Yes.
Made an effort to see to the end of their problem. Right? They didn't just sit down in one place and say, "God, come and heal me." They did something courageous, something, whatever. Give him a round of applause. Yeah.
Another. Okay, I want to add to, yes.
Another one to add.
Yes. Also, another lesson to take is the fact that Jesus has the power over illness and
the
other
two stories
challenges.
show that Jesus has the power over illnesses and diseases and anything that debilitates us.
And also that it is never too late for God. Because in the case of Jairus' daughter, she actually died. So people thought it was too late. Same with the woman with the hemorrhage. She had been there for 12 years, so she would have just given up. But, well,
with God, all things
are possible, and it is never too late for God.
Great. Thank you. Emmanuel, do you still have anything to add? Okay, not that one.
Glory to Jesus.
The lesson for me in the context of the present Nigerian economy and Nigerian situation is that they were seeking for solution in the right manner.
many people in our context, especially from the eastern Nigeria, might have been in that same situation, but they were looking for solution all over the place, in the wrong places. So they were positive in their search of
The
solution.
people of your village, they will be looking for it in wrong places.
And not just the eastern Nigeria, I'm saying generally for Christians.
No, not you can't put the whole of Eastern Nigeria. Maybe the people of your village.
I'm speaking from a place of knowledge because there's a lot of wave currently that where people who say they are Christians suffer a little discomfort, and where they seek for solution, you can't equate it to the next thing they do on Sunday. So it's for me to say that no matter what we suffer, Jesus has the answer.
Look for the answer in the right place.
Yes.
Give him a round of applause. Okay. Yes, Mr. Omoru.
Glory to Jesus. Father, I think there's the role of information here.
You are still on the same question. Question
Yes,
3.
yes.
Yes.
The two people who had miraculous
Intervention.
touch,
Yes.
yes, they were informed,
They had information about Jesus.
and they believed in that information they had. They knew about Jesus.
Okay.
They knew that Jesus had the power. He could do it. And that is why the leader of the synagogue, even though he was a big man, with all the paraphernalia of office.
So speaking about Jesus to people is important, right?
Yes, yes.
They had information and they acted on the information.
Yes.
If people do not speak about Jesus, like St. Paul says, how will they be converted if they do not hear? How will they hear if there are no preachers to preach it? So it means proclaiming Jesus and his power is important,
Yes,
because somebody who is suffering may get help by using that information. Give him a round of applause. Yes.
Good day, Father. Good day, Church.
Thank you.
I would like to attempt question 1.
Yes.
For me, the overriding theme of today's reading is God is life.
God is life. Give him a round of applause. Says God did not create us for death. Disease is death. That is not God's doing. God created us that we may be alive. It is the devil's envy that brought death into it. Good. What's the next question? Have we covered it all? Question 4. What have you done? Yeah, you are in school now. You should be doing some things. Okay?
I want to add a lesson to question 3 and answer question 4.
The lessons?
So, I want to add a lesson to
Yes.
question 3. So what struck me in the gospel for question 3 is that Darius and the woman, they both had faith in spite of what people thought. So for Darius, people were telling him, don't meet Jesus. Your daughter is dead. It's already too late. So in spite of people's assumptions, people's beliefs, he met Jesus.
In spite of what people who don't believe say, so you are stubborn in a positive sense.
Yes.
Refuse to be held back by those who do not believe. Yes?
Yes. And that's what struck me for
Okay.
question 3. For question 4, what have you done and what more will you do to bring healing and comfort to the sick or the distressed and the traumatized persons around you today? For me, it's more about how you spend your resources when you want to bring comfort to the sick and help people. So depending on the resource you have, how you make use of it to help people. So I don't have money, but I have time. So how I help, because in my school now, there's a teaching hospital. So as a 100-level student, you can have classes, your schedule is full. But I make out time to go to that teaching hospital sometimes. It's not usually advisable because there are people with communicable diseases there. So you have to take certain precautions. But that time to visit certain
Even though they have communicable diseases, they will still be helped if people visit them.
Yes.
So it's a matter of taking the required precautions and go and visit.
And spending time, because what you find is that they are lonely. People just pass them by, and the nurses and other.
So one of the things to do to people who are sick is to go spend time with them, because sick people are lonely. Sick people on admission are like people in prison. They are isolated. So they need somebody to come and spend some time with them. Yes. Thank you. What more can you do when you become a big woman?
What I can do when I become a big woman is just to heed to what St. Paul said in second reading, that as it is written, he who had plenty did not have much over, so and he who had little did not lack. Just even distribution of resources.
I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly even. We don't have, like people keep saying, oh, it is not practicable. Fingers are not equal. I keep saying fingers are not equal, but each one of my fingers is well fed. Right?
Yes.
Each one of my fingers does any of my fingers look malnourished? Are they equal? No. But they are well fed. Good. So fingers are not equal, because you see, if you go that part, immediately some people will be defensive. We didn't all work hard the same way. We didn't all whatever. Why should we say we should be all equal? However, each one of our fingers is well fed. So let each person have basic needs. That's why in this country, what we are talking about should be living wage. You see, we have spent over 1 year discussing living wage, right? But it doesn't take the leaders time to vote private jet, to vote SUV, 160 million SUVs, to vote. It doesn't take them. But it has taken us how long? More than a year. We are discussing minimum wage. We should be discussing the kind of wage that can take somebody home to live reasonable lives. That's what we should be discussing. And it should be as quick. We should be able to discuss it within a week and resolve. Just as we were able to resolve other things within a week. So if we are dilly-dallying like this, it means we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. And by the way, everyone should recognize that when they say minimum wage, what it means is that it is the lowest you can pay. That government in civilized society set up the minimum you can pay. That doesn't mean everybody who is the junior worker should be earning that. So the poorest state in Nigeria is the one that may be paying minimum wage. The richer states should not be paying minimum wage. I don't know if everybody understands this.
Yes.
How can Delta State be paying minimum wage to anyone? How can Lagos State be paying minimum wage to anyone? How can River State be paying minimum wage to anyone? So, which is the poorest state? I don't want to call my state as poorest state. Which is the poorest state? Whatever is the poorest state, if the poorest state is paying 100,000, we expect Delta State to be able to pay 200,000. We expect Lagos to be able to pay 200,000. That's the situation. We expect Akwa Ibom State to pay 250,000. So minimum means, because all the states don't generate the same amount of money. Minimum means the minimum. You can't go below this. That's what we are fighting for. You can't go below this. But according to the wealth of the states, they now pay different amounts. And may the Lord put it in our heads, in the heads of our leaders, to do the right thing.
Amen.
And they should remember Kenya. They should remember Kenya. Oh. In the last 1 week, we saw Kenya. And the problem is not fully resolved. They should remember, because it won't be good for any of us. We cannot continue to operate like this. It gets to a point when the young people say, enough is enough. And you know what happened in Kenya? Those guys were smart, too. The parliament, they had the escape route under. Oh, people didn't know that. There was a there was a tunnel. All of them succeeded in going away through the tunnel. Our own, I don't think there's a tunnel. Thank you. Give her a round of applause. Okay. Give her the microphone.
I would like to talk about number 3. The common lesson I saw was that they both had a will.
They both had.
They both had a will. They both had a choice. People could have told them that, oh, don't go to Jesus. He will not do what you want. But they still went.
They both had what?
They both had a choice.
Will. W-I-L-L.
LL.
Okay, they both had a will. Okay.
If the woman felt, oh, I've already been to so many physicians and there's nothing I can do, then let me just wait till I die. Or if Jairus thought that there's no one else that can save my daughter, let me just let her die, they would have died and nothing important would
Well,
have
everybody
happened.
has a will, so it must be that you mean they both persevered.
They both
It's
went.
yes, perseverance. They both persevered. Give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay. God did not make us for death. Death and its prelude, which is illness, many times, they are not God's plan for humanity. God takes no pleasure in the discomfort and extinction of the living. God created us for full and abundant life here and in the hereafter. Death, both physical and spiritual, result from sin, the work of the devil. Death is the greatest enemy of humanity. That's why we speak of the cold hands of death. Yet, there is implanted in human nature the seed of immortality. Jesus came and revealed himself as the way, the truth, and the life. John 14:6. He revealed himself as the one who holds the key to immortality, the resurrection and the life. John 11:25. He revealed himself as the one who bestows abundant life. John 10:10. He revealed himself as the bread of life. I am the bread of life, he says. If anyone believes in me, even though he dies, he shall live. And anyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. John 6:51-58. He says, I am the water of life. And water is life. And water gives life. John 4:1-14. Yes, I am the resurrection. Anyone who believes in me, even though he dies, will live. And anyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Both the woman with hemorrhage and the daughter of Jairus were beyond the help of any earthly power. They had exhausted all human possibilities. When they heard of Jesus, they both believed that he possessed supernatural power to heal. The miracles show Jesus restoring life and health. The two episodes represent Jesus' mission. That's what Jesus came for, to restore abundant life to us here and to raise us to everlasting life in the next world. The two miracles show that with God all things are possible, even when humanly speaking there is no hope. They show that Jesus has the power over sickness and death, and for believers in Christ, death is only a sleep. He told them, the child is only asleep. Death is only a sleep from which Jesus can and will awaken us. In his healing ministry, Jesus demonstrated his love. Can you read? His love and tenderness, his mercy and compassion, his sensitivity to human suffering, his affinity or vulnerability to those in pain, his ready response to faith, and his power over sickness and death. Jesus healed people. He healed people with his word, with his touch, and with his love. His word healed the spirit. His touch healed the body. And his love brought assurance, salvation. Patients who have no faith are at a disadvantage. They go through triple tragedy. They suffer, patients who have no faith, they suffer the pain of their disease, they suffer on account of its meaninglessness, and they suffer because they see illness as something to be endured rather than lived. For them, the period of illness is a period of suspended animation. A lot of documented research, a lot of research has been made over a long time with patients. The patients that believe, those who are in hospital, who are critically ill, that believe, that are religious, they are the ones who recover more quickly. Even dying patients, cancer patients and others who are dying, those that believe die with more sense of peace. You know, I talk about a lot of people who don't believe, who, when they are dying, they are kicking and screaming and cursing. Because what they are going through has no meaning. When what you are suffering has no meaning, oh, what a terrible suffering. What lightens the burden for us is when we can see a meaning. And it is through faith that we can see meaning in what has happened to us. But when we cannot see any meaning, how terrible it will be. Actually, many of us take our faith for granted. But one of the most important things that the life of faith does for us is that it gives meaning to our lives. It gives meaning to the ups and downs of our lives. It gives meanings to the disruptive moments of our lives. The disruptive circumstances. The circumstances that we never bargained for, that we have to go through. Our faith gives meaning to it. In the gospel story, faith enabled the poor, frightened, sick, and untouchable woman to recognize Jesus' power to save her. Faith enabled her to push through the crowd. Faith made her to reach out for a healing touch. And power indeed came out of Jesus. It's like, you know, in that particular case, I don't know if you take note that Jesus did not knowingly heal her. You take note of that? Jesus did not knowingly heal her. Jesus began to probe, power has gone out of me. Who is it that touched me? Meaning he didn't. The woman stole the healing. She stole the healing. Oh yeah, she stole the healing because Jesus did Jesus give her? If Jesus gave her, he wouldn't have been asking, who touched me, who touched me? Jesus discovered that they had taken healing out of him, and he said, who did this? And when the disciples said, how can you be complaining, who touched you? Can't you see everybody? Jesus knew that something. Faith healed the woman of her illness and thus transformed her. Faith also raised Jairus' daughter back to life. The raising of Jairus' daughter and the healing of the woman with hemorrhage demonstrate something. 1, the power of prayer. 2, so you can see that prayer is not just opening our mouth and blaring something. In this case, what was the woman's prayer? If I can only touch his garment. She said no word, though. She just thought in her mind, if I can only touch the garment. And then she reached out. Her prayer was a gesture. There are people who no longer know the importance of gestures. All we do in this church, a lot of it, what is gestures? We bow, we kneel, we genuflect. Those are gestures. Those are gestures. All she did was a gesture. She didn't speak in tongues. She didn't blare any words. But she carried out a gesture that was powerful. She reached out to touch his garment. Yes, it is about the benefit of bold, courageous, audacious, and expectant faith. Jesus says to Jairus, do not be afraid, only believe. When they came to him and said, don't bother the man anymore. Daughter has died. Actually, the professional mourners are already there in the house. You know, Jesus saw a tumult, isn't it? They are professional mourners. And we used to have them in many parts of Africa, in many parts of Nigeria. We used to have them. When somebody just dies, they will pack themselves, 10, 15 women. They will pack themselves. As soon as anybody comes, they and once the person goes away, they are chatting, they are eating, they are whatever. Then when another new person comes, immediately all you need is, and then they will begin to weep. They are called professional mourners. They will be paid for their work. Oh. Then Jesus met all that tumult, and then he put them out. The professional mourners, he pushed them out. The child is not dead, he's only sleeping. To the disciples at the stormy sea, you remember Jesus says what? Courage, it is I. Mark chapter 6, verse 45, 52. When the woman sneaked through the crowd to steal a miracle from Jesus, what she desired was what? A quick fix. Actually, she was hoping that Jesus will not know. If she knew that Jesus would catch her, she was hoping that Jesus will not know, that she can just steal the healing and go away. Well, but Jesus wanted a face-to-face encounter. Who touched me? All the woman wanted was the curing of her hemorrhage, nothing more, but Jesus wanted to save her whole person, physical, spiritual, emotional, and psychological. The woman came to steal a blessing, but Jesus wanted to start a relationship. Can we say that together? Yes, and many of us, unfortunately, all we want to do is steal a blessing. We don't want a relationship. Many people don't want a relationship. Many people who go to churches are going to churches to get one, to go and get my miracle, get whatever, but not to establish a relationship with Jesus. What Jesus wants to do instead is to establish a relationship. He knew that with the touch, power had gone out of him. He knew how broken the person was. So he insisted on meeting her and giving her assurance of love and salvation. He knew that the woman needed to hear these words: "My daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be free from your complaint." In Jesus' healing work, the problem is always the whole person, never the symptoms alone. Jesus is always dealing with the whole person and wants to heal and transform the whole person. Jesus did not become man, as I keep saying. Jesus did not become man and die and rise from the dead just to cure us of our headaches or our belly aches. That is too small for the Son of God, for God's Son to come into the world. Sometimes I say this and people don't understand that. God didn't become man to cure us of any illness. That is too small for God. Do you understand? Because there are human doctors that can. You don't need God to become man simply to cure us of this. God became man so that the children of men may become children of God. So it is to transform us to become children of God. That's the most important thing for which he came. If he cures us of any illness, it is Jara. Yes, extra. It's just extra. But the most important thing is salvation. That's why his name is Jesus, Savior. That's what he came for. He did not come all the way from heaven simply to cure our fevers and our infections. He came for something much more. He came to heal our persons, the whole person. He came to heal the whole person, spirit, soul, and body, physical, spiritual, moral, psychological, social. He healed a sick person. He did not just cure an illness. Let me tell your neighbor, Jesus healed the person, not cure an illness. Is there a difference? Jesus heals the whole person. Like the woman in the gospel, we all carry many wounds. We carry physical wounds, but also we carry psychological wounds, emotional wounds, moral wounds. We have just finished 2 days ago, we have just finished our psychotrauma healing. And those who, Val, you were there, right? that almost everybody is carrying emotional and psychological wounds, carrying it around. And some people carry it around throughout their lives. Yes, on the physical level, we have hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, HIV, AIDS, cancer, deformities of one kind or the other, handicaps of one kind or the other. But on the psychological or emotional level, we have traumas, post-traumatic stress disorder, ongoing traumas, rejection and betrayal, failure in business or family life, loneliness, persecution, poverty, and unemployment. On the moral and spiritual level, we have sin, S-I-N, sin, guilt. Both personal sin, personal guilt, and social sin and social guilt. We need healing at all the levels of our lives. All these various levels, emotional, psychological, physical, social, we need healing. We need the touch of Jesus to attain such wholeness at all levels. We can touch Jesus and receive healing today. How? One, in prayer. For he says, ask and you shall receive. We can touch and receive healing today in the Word of God, which is life. The Word of God, which gives life. We can touch Jesus and receive healing in one another. For Jesus says, where 2 or 3 of you are gathered in my name, I shall be there with you. We can touch Jesus and receive healing in the Eucharist, his body and blood, which he has left behind for our healing, for our sanctification, and for our salvation. And when I ask those whose intentions are not written down, what are your intentions? We do not expect that you come to church without a clear intention. You are going to commune with the Lord in the Eucharist. I don't expect you to come without an intention. If you have nothing that is bothering you, pray for the country. Pray for the sick. Pray for those who are traumatized. Pray for people who are in trouble. But you should have an intention. So actually, each time I ask any other intention, I expect 100 hands to be up. And for the Eucharist, it is better to say it out, because we are doing a communal petition for it. I want to live your life, faithful to your name. I want to live your life. Keep me, Lord. I want to live your life, faithful to your name. I want to live your life. Keep me, Lord. I want to live your life, faithful to your name. I want to live your life. Keep me, Lord. I want to live your life, faithful to your name. I want to live your life. Keep me, Lord. Now listen. I want to touch you, oh Jesus. Make me well again. I want to touch you, oh Jesus. Heal me, Lord. I want to touch you, oh Jesus. Make me well again. I want to touch you, oh Jesus. Heal me, Lord. I want to live your life, faithful to your name. I want to live your life. Keep me, Lord. I want to live your life, faithful to your name. Live your life, keep me, Lord. I want to follow you, Jesus. Find my way through life. I want to follow you, Jesus. I want to follow you, Jesus, and find my way through life. I want to follow you, Jesus. Help me, Lord. I want to live your life, faithful to your name. I want to live your light. Keep me, Lord. I want to live your life. Faithful to your name. I want to live your life. We may all be wounded, but we're all called to be healers as well. We are wounded healers. We are not to wait until we are completely healed before we stretch out our hands to heal others. As followers of Jesus, we are challenged to touch others and bring them healing. Some of us have the gift of actual physical healing, but many others will not have the spectacular power to heal the sick and raise them up. However, we can all heal through caring. Kind of thing that Kenneth said. We can all heal through caring. With a little compassion. Can you answer? We can heal a wounded heart. Again, with a little compassion. With a little kindness. With a little of our time, with a little generosity, we can heal someone wounded by poverty and unemployment. Yes, we are called to do the little we can to overcome evil, sickness, and suffering and death, and bring love, joy, health, and peace to our brothers and sisters. If we stand today complaining about Nigerian government, from today to tomorrow, it will not change anything unless we do something. If we complain about evil in the world, why is there so much sickness? Why is there so much evil? Why do young people die? You can complain from now till tomorrow, nothing will happen. The only thing that will happen is if you do something to ease the pain of somebody. Do something to ease the pain of the person mourning. Do something to ease the pain of the person in the hospital. That is when something will happen. Yes, we are called to do something, no matter how little, to ease the burden of our sisters in the little kind words that we speak to the lonely. Yes, in the little inspiring thoughts we share with the distressed. In the little care we give to the sick, in the little assistance we render to the needy, we can each perform little miracles of love and service. In the little acts of love, care, and service, we can, like Jesus, heal the sick and raise the dead to life. In the little acts of love and care and service that we offer. Come unto me, all you who labor and are overburdened, and I will give you rest. Come unto me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Blessing and Sam, are you hearing? Come unto me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Why do you suffer in vain? Oh, why do you cry in vain when I am there and I will? I say, why do you suffer in vain? Oh, why do you cry in vain when I am there? And I am the Prince of Peace, you know. I am the Lord of Lords, and I am the promised one. And I will shoulder my yoke and learn from me that I am gentle and humble in heart, and for my yoke is easy and my burden is light, and you will find rest for your souls. And So come unto me, all you who labor and are overburdened, and I will give you. Heavenly Father, we thank you, we praise you, glorify your holy name for your many blessings. Thank you for your love and your goodness. Thank you for reassuring us today that though we witness death every day, death is not your will for us. Your will is that we live lives that are immortal, that are eternal, that we share in your eternity. Lord, comfort your mourning people with these words of yours. Comfort your children who are mourning, children who are sick, children who are distressed, who are experiencing death in many ways. Comfort us with these words of yours. Your Son, Jesus Christ, came that we may have life and have it abundantly. Help us to experience that life, even as we face the challenges in our life and the challenges in our society. Heal us of our wounds. Heal us of the pains that we encounter. And grant us the joy of knowing you, so that we may be agents of transformation in our society through Christ our Lord.